All right, everybody, welcome to I Screened, You Scream for Movies for Wednesday, December 6th. F it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Danny, and ladies and gentlemen, this is an episode out of nowhere. Before I even discuss the other movie I wanted to discuss, actually, but for this episode, I even decided to go see two movies this past Sunday as of recording and the episode dropping. And so I saw two movies, one I want to see since months ago as the trailer dropped, but then this movie out of nowhere. As the fan, I was bursted when this movie came extremely good. And as a fan, I have to pay tribute because I'm a fan of this type of character, this type of IP, and this monster. And I'm not a big Japanese guy of these type of stuff at all. But this is where I have to knock it till I try it. And I'm sitting here on this show right now saying, hot be damned, or excuse me, I'll be damned, this movie was amazing. So, this is one of the movies I decided to do before putting out the Thanksgiving episode, which I haven't recorded this yet, but I promise, for those who are listening, I will get this review out. But for now, let me pay this tribute to this special type of episode, as well as a trailer reaction to one of the biggest next MonsterVerse movies coming out next year. But for now, we got to review Godzilla-One. Oh boy. Now, as you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this podcast, but mostly if you're listening to this podcast, I'm not doing this episode alone. I not only have a very loyal companion podcaster that I've been wanting to have this guy for a long time, but right here, he is a Godzilla himself. So, this is Kyle Peffers from the podcast community called the Mutant Football League Podcast. Kyle, welcome to the show.
I'm finally glad to be here, my friend. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's always you're here, and I'm sure Jason Riley, if he's listening to this, is gonna be burst to see you surprised because I haven't told him shit about this. That's for sure. Fuck it, we're doing it live. But let's go ahead and get things rolling. So Godzilla-One, it is another reboot Toho Japanese Godzilla film. Just came out past December 3rd. And like I said, I didn't give shit when I've been heard about this movie. I wasn't sure. Not because I was not gonna like it, but I just didn't like Godzilla Japanese stuff. I just like to hear English subtitles. So I'm
Right.
mostly Americanized. And I hate to be I hate to be like a disgraced Japanese Godzilla, but you know what? Like I said, I'm sitting here feeling hot damned. This is just wow. What a worth trip to trying this movie. So Godzilla-One is what we're talking about here. And like I said, I have Kyle Peffers with me. So before we get on to this episode, tell the listeners about yourself and what is your podcast really about?
Well, I'm Kyle Peffers. I'm from Western New York, and I too am a podcaster where you do multiple movie genres, themes, the works. I'm more concentrated. I am the official Mutant Football League podcaster, and I review just their game. And incidentally, if I didn't do Mutant Football League, I would have done a Godzilla podcast. But as I was making my podcast and doing more research, I would have been more like a million fish in the ocean, because the more deeper I looked, the more and more podcasts I found. And at that point, it'd been like, what would be the point? Mine wouldn't have been special. I would be competing against guys like Goji Fan 93, Dangerville, and the works, and they do great productions of the Godzilla community. So I didn't even bother, but I love Mutant Football League from 93. 2017 came, about 2019 when I was starting to think of podcasts. I don't want that game to be dead and gone, and it didn't have a voice the first time. So I figured I'd be the voice this time and just make sure that the video game community out there would know the Mutant League brand. But like you said, the Godzilla is probably having the best year of its 70-year continuancy with everything going on. Because again, you have minus one, you have Monarch Legacy, And like you just said, the new trailer that just came out of nowhere just 2 days ago.
Yeah, and we're gonna discuss that as well. But just a quick couple questions for the listeners to understand. What is Mutant Football League?
Uh, it is Blitz on steroids. If
And
you play,
it's a parody of the NFL,
you
correct?
know,
Like real life
so
stuff to the game.
correct. So you play as parody teams. Like I actually have the Cowboys, Malice Cowboy shirt on right now, which is supposed to be the Dallas Cowboys. And you play as skeletons, werewolves, demons, aliens, and you play football. And it uses the Madden engine. And Tim Clitro from NBA Jams is the commentator, which is probably the best thing in the entire game.
True
Is,
that.
is his commentary is what really makes that game apart from anything else. And what's cool about it is he does all the voice acting. So he does quadruple 10 times the work. And I fell in love with it just because I'm a monster fan and I love football, and I am now a Snuffalo Thrills fan for life.
So, Mutant Football League is a parody of the NFL, basically, to the listeners.
Yes,
And if you're watching this on YouTube, my man Kyle is like he said, he has the parody of the Dallas Cowboys shirt on, and he's got the Godzilla hat on top of that, which
my son gave
forgot
it
to
to me,
mention it.
gave me this for my birthday this past year.
Ah, that's very nice.
Yeah,
Wonderful. He knows you well. And just one more thing to throw out: how long were you been a Godzilla fan?
I'm 37, so 32 years.
For me, I can say I'm in the 2000s. I was born, so I've been a fan of Godzilla, not when the Japanese stuff was around with myself, but when 2014's Godzilla became to existence, that's when I began to love this kind of monster and become involved in that community of the fan base. And
And
so
that,
I'm
that
proud to be that too.
and that makes sense to your generation because the Japanese movies were more, now locked back up to Toho again. You guys didn't really have anything until 2014 to broaden that MonsterVerse style. You had Dracula, werewolves, mummies, what we brought out, but nothing like that until 2014.
Yeah. And it's a blessing that Legendary and Toho were able to make this Godzilla become Americanized to the Monsterverse. And
Correct.
this is exciting. We're going to talk about the Monsterverse along the way in the next section, but it's been 8 minutes, but let's go straight to this episode for GodzillaMinusOne. So I got to see it this past Sunday as a double feature with Thanksgiving. And again, I'll drop the Thanksgiving review sometime next week since I even did a poll on Twitter. If you guys follow me on Twitter, ISUS4M Pod. It's in the show notes if you want to follow me on Twitter. Most people want me to drop the GodzillaXKong. I mean, Godzilla-Minus-One episode. So I decided, let me drop it, and I'll drop the Thanksgiving episode sometime next week, early next week, at anything. So you got to see it Friday last week, or was it like?
I made sure I was there opening night on December 1st.
Oh,
Dragged the
okay. Oh,
family
December
along.
1st, not December
Yep.
3rd. I don't know if I said that, but excuse my incorrection date, December 1st.
Nope. I went there first
Oh
day
yeah, yeah, yeah. I said December 3rd
for you.
because for me, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
December 1st was the release date. God, I'm freaking lost in time sometimes.
So I
But
dragged the family, and all five of us enjoyed it. Even my wife, who is the diehard anti Godzilla, she's never really been into it. Like you, the dubbing was always awful because I'm more of the Japanese, but she actually enjoyed herself as well. She was riveted through the
mm,
story the whole way through. So to get a non-fan to like this movie was incredible to hear.
oh yeah, totally. Even for me, I was so riveted into. Now, let's just go into this real quick. Let's go ahead and give our quick thoughts before we get into the discussion. So, how do you feel with this Godzilla-Minus-One? What are your very quick thoughts as the guest?
It's now my new greatest movie of all time. And my first Godzilla all-time favorite was The Return of Godzilla, which is the direct sequel for at 84. because that's the first movie I ever saw. Was the
Oh,
1984 one when I was 5, and I was hooked ever since. So I had a lock hole since I was 6 at 1984, and for this one to take it over is was just incredible. The sound, dude, the sound in that theater. Yeah,
dude, did you see it? Now, it gives me a good question because they have played this in PLFs.
I did PLS.
Wh- what PLF was it? IMAX or Dolby? What was it?
I did Dolby because the
Okay.
theater that I went to did not offer IMAX.
Okay. Because I
It was
think
just where I lived. The pre-release in on the 29th was the IMAX releases.
okay, okay. For me,
Dolby was afterwards.
my theater didn't provide that, so I went to see it in a regular screening and still feels good. It still has an amazing sound. Oh man, I was blown away with the sound and like the roaring, man. This just feels iconic. Wow.
Yeah,
For me, I loved it. I never thought to say for a Japanese Godzilla. I never seen the others, but I loved it. I love this so much. It's the most efficient, real deal Godzilla. And this is definitely like, it doesn't matter what you watch from Toho when it comes to the reboots. This is technically a reboot, and this is a great place to start. For our recommendation, if you really like to get this to this modern era continuation of like comparing recent Hollywood movies, GodzillaMinusOne is the best way to go.
and I
Man,
agree.
it's so good.
If you want to
Alright.
start fresh, definitely -1 is the new starting point. Don't worry about all the other ones. This is the new beginning.
If you're a MonsterVerse fan, then that won't count, but even if
Correct.
you're a Godzilla fan, you can still watch it. But
Yes.
if you're following the storyline of the series, I mean, MonsterVerse is a different type of thing, so
Yes.
alright, Godzilla's design, let's just go straight to it. First time I saw it before I even did not think about seeing the movie, it looked good. They always did a good job with the designs, the visuals of this character. He's always the exact Godzilla. They just kill it with these designs so much. It's very well done. I can't
Yeah.
describe what I just seen, but then wow, they just handle it so good with the sound and this character and the looks. I mean, wow, all over, especially in
And
Japanese.
the fact that it's all CGI, but they made it look suitmation was like the fact that some of those scenes I forgot that was all computer generated. I legit thought it was a guy in a suit. Like
Yeah, it's
like the
always
water
the guy in the suit.
the water scenes, the when he was in the water. I that didn't look like it was computer generated. It literally looked like a puppet chasing a little boat.
Yeah, this is wow. This is not. I mean, what a great way they improve these kind of movies like this. I mean, they just decided to switch from having a man dressed in mocap suit to have a puppet like design or some kind of. I mean, you said CGI, right? I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
what they did, but they just impressed the hell of us. They
with a
impressed us
$15
with.
million budget, and that's what they got out of it.
I was gonna discuss that later, but yeah, now that you brought it up, most Hollywoods always do like $200 million that we've seen this recent year, and in Japan, it only costs 15 to make. You never see this often. And
No,
compared to Hollywood that had the strike recently, and a lot of some flops going on this year, especially with Disney. Let's not bury them just yet, or let's not talk about Disney because wow, comparing to a $15 million budget to the Marvels to Wish. I mean, we've seen some flops going on with Disney. They're not having a great year, but Toho right now with $15 million,
killing it.
wow, they killed it, and they
And
managed to pass that budget in one weekend.
yeah,
Had made like 35 worldwide, which domestically it won't matter because it's only a limited run. But in worldwide in Japan, though, yeah, it's gonna continue making run
I
money.
just looked at the sales. It just overtook Hunger Games by $200,000.
That's for Monday's daily, not for the whole box office week. Because number
Correct.
one is
They're at their 11 million, but for box office Monday, they were number
yeah, it
one.
did. Yeah, I noticed that too. I'm like damn impressed. So
Yeah,
let's just sit now. What we're discussing right there, real quick. The word of mouth for this movie is so fucking good. There's no words to say. Everyone loves this movie by audience and by critics. It has an A cinema score, 97% Rotten Tomatoes. This thing is a straight up banger, Hollywood, monster budget, great storytelling. And
and
speaking
even
of
if you're
story, oh, go
not,
ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
No, you're right. Even if you're not a Godzilla fan, this is a great monster movie.
This is a great
This
way
is a
to start.
horror movie. This is a horror movie. This is like Freddy Krueger style, oh, shaking in your bones horror. That's what I think makes it different from the other ones, even the monster verse, because this is like you're scared of this thing. It's hunting you. You're just not there for being their sake. It's pissed off at you, and it's gonna make you know it's pissed off at you.
Oh, trust me, I didn't feel that piss off, but I'm sure everyone else is. You're right. Let's go talk to one of the good props, or let me just rephrase it because I didn't phrase it right. Let's talk about the emotional story of this movie. It did a good job with such an emotional story with the protagonist. So, what this whole thing with his character for the listeners, it's about a soldier who suffered PTSDs from a recent Godzilla attack as a soldier. And he was tasked to try to like shoot Godzilla invading with a fighter pilot gun,
Yeah,
and then
this
he hesitated. And then his men were killed. And that brought shame not only to him, but he suffered PTSDs from that. And I thought his emotional story was on point. We never seen stuff like this in like Godzilla movies like this ever. And what a great way they came up with just like that.
yeah, no. Usually, even at the older Godzilla, you fast forward through the human parts to get to the monsters. But that's what I used to do growing up. Oh, humans are on. Just fast forward to the
I think
Godzilla
that's
suit.
what people are just doing in MonsterVerse nowadays. They just want to see the monsters. At this point, it's just getting not beyond ridiculous, but it's it's getting really petty of how
but
people
this,
want to see these movies like that and just skip to the best parts, whenever Godzilla shows up or not.
but this one, I invested in those human parts.
Oh, me too. Actually,
Oh my god,
the
that was
characters were
almost
great in that one.
yes. They stole the movie. Like you could eliminate Godzilla and put another monster in it, and it would still have the same effect.
Who's your character? Because I like the scientist one with the glasses. I don't know. I forgot his name, but man, I think he stole it for me. He stole that
Yeah,
show
because
for me. He was great.
yeah. Also, the captain of the boat who called him Doc and the kid.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, in this realm, unlike any other MonsterVerse movies or the past Toho Godzilla, they have meaningful characters. I mean, if you're watching this at this point, you're going to feel just invested how much character work they put in. Now, of course, Godzilla's not a ton of throughout the movie. I guess,
10 minutes.
10 minutes of Godzilla in the movie, but then you get so invested with the story. And like we
You
previously stated, the emotional story of the protagonist going through PTSD was another thing. And, they did an
almost
amazing
didn't
job.
notice. You didn't even notice it was only 10 minutes.
I mean, now you could tell me that right now. I mean, I'm not shocked because he isn't throughout the whole movie. Like every first 5-10 minutes, but then I will say the third act is pretty fun. The third act just gets really good,
Yeah,
and that's when
exactly.
the rest of the screen time for Godzilla shows up. I mean, this is like the coolest part. And we gotta talk about the atomic breath. I thought they handled the atomic breath very, very good. Oof.
Yeah.
Especially his spinal cord. Wow, it's popping right as he we never see that before, haven't we?
Uh, No, this is actually a new feature, and it is
Oh,
to
man.
represent the power coils of a new true nuclear bomb. They actually rise up when the heat rises, and then when they push the button, it pushes all the atom fusions back together, which causes the explosion. So that's what they were trying to represent. Uh, most people are kind of like 50-50 on it. No, because they wanted spamming like the MonsterVerse. Blast here, blast there. He's cutting through. But then that would be more representing of a nuclear holocaust because like you said, each breath was a nuclear bomb.
Yeah,
If
it's technically
he's spamming over and over again, that's a nuclear holocaust, and
you're right.
there's be no point.
Yeah, there's no point because it will just blow the whole thing. And then in the second part, I mean, he did that, and then the whole whatever factory he shot at exploded, and
Yeah,
it caused devastation. I mean, there's no point to spam it, so which I believe it made sense. They did a good job not to carry that too much, because at this point, everyone would die at this point. I mean, who would
And
survive
then
so many
even
multiple Holocausts?
and then come the third act, and you see it charging up again, and it's that dread of they know what's coming, but there's no way to stop it.
Yes. Oh my god, it was the scariest moment though around that, but let's not spoil too much. But we're just giving straight ideas. How will you feel if you invest into the story and then you invest into Godzilla's intimidating moment when that time comes? I mean, believe me, oh man. All right.
Exactly.
Um, I just want to ask. This is like Toho's best Godzilla film yet of Japanese wise. I
Correct.
think it is for sure. It's
Yes.
definitely takes the cake. Critic wise, audience wise, it has an A cinema score, kills it. I
Yeah.
mean, no word to describe. I mean, have we just got Shin Godzilla? Like what year exactly? I can't remember to put my thumb.
2016.
Okay, and was that like well made, loved from everyone, or just like how
It
did it work
was.
exactly?
So what happened was it did so well they didn't make a sequel. And then people were like, "Why didn't you make a sequel?" Well, they lost the director. They had like a filming falling out like what we are right now, and basically Shin 2 just fell flat. And then this new director didn't like what they wrote for Shin 2, and he made the Godzilla ride.
Oh,
This
okay.
this is what so the design of the Godzilla ride in 2020 is the design for minus one. So
Oh,
he took
Godzilla
his
ride, Godzilla raid or ride. I mean,
the 4D Godzilla ride that they had at their amusement park. He transferred over to minus one and just updated it.
wow. Okay, that's great to know. I mean, wow, such information. Okay. Do you have any weakness to this movie? Because I mean, for me, I'm always Americanized Godzilla, so my weakness is no dubbed version. I had to see it in Japanese, but good news is, if you're planning to see this movie before the limited run ends, it will have subtitles, so it
Yes.
helps you understand. But for me, I keep reading at the subtitles every time, and that's just my weakness. I have to read the subtitles to see what they're saying instead of just watching the whole thing to understand. It just kind of puts me off a bit, but other than that, I still understood the movie very well anyways.
Right. For me, the slow times halted the story like after the fact of the first attack, and then it's like that. What do we do now? Well, what do you do now? You can't just stand there and do nothing. Sooner or later, you gotta do something. And then there was a few parts where they jumped around a little bit that I got a little lost of where they're going with. Like you said, the scientist, and then they went to the soldier, and then they went to the family, and then they went to like the screen where they're trying to choose one.
Yeah, yeah. So the pacing is what you're telling me,
It's
correct?
like really, it's like literally you have a 2 hour movie. Use that 2 hours. You don't have to rush through it.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, yeah.
It's
Good
like
point.
I'm already invested in your characters. Let me enjoy your characters. You don't have to hop from each one. You have all the time in the world with this 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. All right. Now, like I stated a couple times, this film is only for a limited run. It's not going to be throughout the whole month of December. So I do want to point this out. It's pretty stupid that it's only for like a week run. But then as I check my theater local, they are playing this weekend again until Wonka, Aquaman, the following movie's coming out the following week, and it's not going to continue the run. So
As of I heard, they've extended it to the 14th,
yeah, I mean that's
the day
good.
before they go to Europe.
Oh yeah, the release for Europe, right? Is what you're telling me?
Yeah, UK are
Okay.
getting it on the 15th.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen this movie, it's your lucky chance. I thought they're not going to extend it, but then as I heard it before I got on air earlier today, you will get a chance if you want to try this movie. I have a friend who wants to see it and heard how good this movie is. So
Yeah,
even
AMC
if
and
he's
Regal are the two big ones that said, "Let's keep this." They're getting
and
big.
Imagine by the way is my is the franchise I go to, but
Yep.
If anyone's listening to this podcast, and if you want to check this movie out, it's in theaters for extended time till December 14th when Wonka before it comes out. That's your best bet to go see it before you probably have to wait to watch it on digital again, which
Yes,
it's not the greatest way because it has, like I said, like we stated, the visuals, the sound. You want to see it on the biggest screen, but it's not going to be in PL. Actually, is it in PLF still for like
yes,
AMC and Regal? Okay,
yeah,
but imagine it doesn't have these Emacs and all that. That's unfortunate, but either way, still gotta still dock it to try it, see it on the screen, and you'll just still be blown away on this movie. So,
absolutely.
will Godzilla minus two be made? Hate to spoil the idea, but I think they will, since it's a success of the loved movie, the first one. I feel like the second one could happen. What do you think?
I believe so, and I believe that they could do a whole new saga,
Oh
like
yeah.
uh way that Shin Godzilla was originally supposed to be was their version of the MCU. Shin Godzilla was supposed to start it, then they were going to do a Rodan movie, then they were going to do a Mothra movie, then they were going to do Varan, so forth. And then they kind of like the Universal Monsters reboot, it fell through. I can see that restating with this one with that same style. We might not get minus one, two per se, but we might have a new monster with its own origin story, like you would have Iron Man to Thor, Batman to
I
Superman.
could see that. Yeah, you're right. Like we could see other Toho monsters like Rodan, Anguirus. We could see those type of movies
Because
if
the
they
way I'm
continue
not
with this.
spoiling the
Yeah,
way that they end it, they can now jump to another movie just because of the way they ended it.
yeah, you're right.
So, oh, here's Rodan, and he's coming out of a volcano, and it's because of the radiation that Godzilla dispersed, mutated this entire saga of their version of the Titans, but it's because of Godzilla's radiation instead of being natural guardians. So they all have this like cryptid, burnt out look to them, like he does, which, by the way, is fantastic.
I Now that you brought this up, I do have a little issue. Now that you brought this up, they should have like explained how this origin of Godzilla. Well, actually, wait, no, 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 sorry. They did a little, but they should have explained it a little more, even by the scientist, even by the character who played the scientist in that movie. I wish they would have directed this to have him explain about Godzilla's origin or how he
That's
came to
where
existence.
I'm going with that pacing issue.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so we're
I
both
was
on
like,
the same
okay,
part.
we saw the scientist is, oh, it must have been the bomb that we tested, and okay, cool. Why? How? And then we go to the family.
And then he goes to how to trap Godzilla.
And then now you're at the soldiers, and they're working on their machinery. And then you go back to the scientist. He's not even talking about Godzilla or how he got formed again. They're talking about, oh, let's beat him up.
Yeah, I just wish they explained a little more. Other than that, that's all the weakness. Now that
Yeah,
you brought this idea up, it came to my head instantly. Now it should be the case.
yeah. That if I have
All
a
right.
fault, it's that pacing issue of, okay, you had a flash burn of a second of what happened to him, but if you didn't see it, you're not going to notice what's going on, or he'd spend that way the entire time.
Yeah. Is there anything else we should discuss before we jump to the next part of this episode?
Uh, no, just that as of right now, minus one is my favorite design, favorite movie, and that is including the monster verse. But that again, they're two different beasts from two different trees, so you can't really compare one versus the other. And that's, I think, the problem that the fans have nowadays is they're two totally different entities,
Yeah,
and that you can love both of them without comparing either one of them to each other.
you're so right. Anyone can almost be subjective on if they have to enjoy the MonsterVerse movies or the Toho ones. I mean, I'm so divided. I don't know. I'm like divided to between the MonsterVerse and Toho. I mean, I don't know how everyone will feel on that, but like either way, I mean, the MonsterVerse, I feel like it's gonna get absurdly fun, but yet ridiculous to general audience at this point. And then what the Toho movies of Godzilla's and the other IPs they have. I mean, they might make these great stories of these humans and then just make every year or every decade almost just rebooting Godzilla and all that. And
That's what keeps him alive. That's why he's almost 100 years old at this point.
yep. All right, Kyle. Let's go on to the next part. And for all listeners, if you are invested to the next part, we're going to discuss on the episode. If not, you're welcome to dip out if you're only just here to listen to reviews. But if you're a MonsterVerse Godzilla Kong fan, great to be alive. If you're listening this part, we are discussing the trailer reaction to one of the not my most number one, because Dune is already my number one most anticipated, but it's becoming my second most anticipated. Instead, we got Godzilla and Kong not fighting each other, but fighting to save the universe. And they're teaming up again in Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire.
Correct.
This is exciting considering the title's been announced back in April. And I'm like, let's go. Look, when they announced the sequel was shooting, I'm like, I don't buy it to believe it. I just want to see what happens. When they really go into sequel, I'm like, damn, already? And I understand the first Godzilla vs. Kong was a success in COVID times, which is incredible. People want to see these fun stuff coming back, and it was on HBO Max at the same time. It still made good money to theater, so that's very good. And then Adam Wingard came back to doing this again. I really thought there'd be someone else doing it, but wow, he's getting really absurd as we're going to discuss this trailer. So
I think
they
he
just,
he wrote came back on because now he has a chance to put in what he wanted to put in for Godzilla versus Kong.
yeah.
Now he has the budget for it. Now he has the time for it. So whatever was missing in Godzilla versus Kong will be in Godzilla and Kong.
And this time it will be about the Hollow Earth, which we're going to get to see a lot of Hollow Earth for the experience of it. And this
I
is
hope Doug
exciting.
did it.
Oh my God. All right. But, they put out this new trailer past Sunday. And before I went to the movies, I got to see the trailer. I'm screaming, just hyping around, looking how amazing this film looks. Now, some VFX could be undone, but that's how trailers work. They'll just, post production, get it done, and then just see if it's different or not. So it could no, I have no arguments for whoever just talks about the VFX, but either way, the trailer still provides what we want to see, what we want to know about, how it explores Hollow Earth, what's next, what's Godzilla and Kong doing. Now, what is your thoughts to this trailer, man? I like to hear your
I think it was incredible. I was blown away. King Louis is going to steal the whole show.
King Louis. You mean the
The
wait? Who's
Scar
King?
King.
Oh, the Scar. Okay, okay, that's who you're referring. Okay, so the Scar King is the antagonist. Now, he's an
That's
orangutan
where I'm
Kong.
gonna. I don't think he is.
He isn't.
I don't think he's the main one.
You sure? Wait a minute. Now you're holding up something. What do
I
don't I now know?
this is just a theory of mine because the way they portrayed him in the trailer, he was more like a prison warden than a leader. He's jailed those Kongs
Wait,
instead
wait
of
a minute.
ruling these Kongs. He was more like a prison that's holding like a slave owner rather than being a governmental. I think he is like a general to a president or an emperor. I don't think he is the main villain. That's
Okay.
just my thought. Again,
Even
that's
we get to see the teaser before months when April was announced with this title, it showed his face, his
it did.
eyes only. And I
Yes,
thought he's the villain. But then now
he
you're
is going to
pointing this
be
out,
a villain. He's going to be a villain
not
because
the villain of the movie.
not
Just
there's going to be two.
okay.
Because again, there was a leaked other monster that everyone thinks is.
I don't want to know. I just want to be unspoiled, and let's
Oh
not
no,
break this on the
I
rock
don't know if
because
it's true or
I'm
not.
tired of myself spoiling these footages, and I just want to wait until the movie comes out. I want to
I'm
be
just going
just
by
prepared.
true first impressions. He did not seem like uh slap up I'm gonna conquer the universe villain. This is I'm doing my job because I have to.
By the other Empire
By
villain. Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
That's my
I
first impression. Like the way that he jumped down to the other Kongs and basically was going to whip him into submission with the whatever was on his shoulder. It was more like a prison whip than I'm gonna bow down to me because I'm your king.
and about this baby Kong we get to see in a trailer. He's relating to Scar King, right?
That's okay. You got the same impression I did, and that's how I think he's the bait
Okay.
because I think he goes out and he learn because if you see when Scar King falls down, Kong's already there. He's the one in the middle, and he's defiantly where the other ones cower back when he jumps down. He like puffs up his chest and like bring it on. Let's go. Let's do this. And the little guy was right behind him.
Oh, wow.
The little baby one is right behind Kong. That's got to be a Scar King relation that he goes out to whatever Kong species is missing from the collective and collects them. And if you listen to the song where it says "Welcome to my world, please
Good
come
song.
in,"
Good one. That's a good song they put in the
that is
trailer.
Scar King singing to Kong to join my collective and join my family where you belong, as more of a false hope that you found your kind. I think that's
Wow.
reference to Scar King singing that to Kong that bring it in, buddy. We're here for you, but in reality, I'm just going to enslave you like the rest of them.
Okay.
So when he jumped
Oh,
down, it's his first time seeing him. Hey, Kong, and I'm gonna see. He's gonna embrace all the Kongs. And yeah, we're all in this together. Oh my god, I'm not the only one. And that's where Scar King's gonna beat Kong into submission type deal. And that's the first time he sees Scar King.
man. Good theories right there. Wow, so many things. Especially Kong's got a mechanical arm,
And I think
which
Scar King's gonna
oh,
break his arm.
you're so right. Maybe. People are talking about this. Maybe.
So that's gonna be the first.
I even see the comments on YouTube.
I
Oh
think
my
that
god.
is when Scar King beats him to submission, he breaks his arm, and then that's where the statement is Kong can't beat him by himself. Is after the first time he meets him, at which point that's where the whole Godzilla. So I feel the first act is all gonna be Kong.
And then Godzilla later, which they according to the test screenings, Godzilla is gonna be silent again. But then I don't think it just be this bad. If anything, like you said, this might be the first act, and then that's where Godzilla comes. And speaking of Godzilla, does he look like Barbie right now? Out of hibernation, the moment he's awakened
Is
from
he
the
hibernate?
icicle.
Is he
Like I
hibernate?
think, I think. I mean,
Why
he's
would he
been.
be in an ice home
I
when
don't
his
know, but then he's
because
all
in
pink.
King of the Monsters he was in a firehouse. Why would he be in an ice house?
Dude, it's so crazy, but at the
This is where
same
my
time,
theory of another monster that's stronger than Star King comes in because in the novelization of King of the Monsters, Godzilla didn't freeze Ghidorah. Something else did during the ancient wars. Who's to say that same entity didn't freeze Godzilla and that's why he's not there to save Kong in the first act? He is frozen in ice, and that's where we find him in the second act. Where's Godzilla? Why is he missing? Because we already found out that in the trailer with the test screenings of people running away from the beach scenes, that's the Scar King on the
yeah, it looks like from the
surface.
part of the trailer. Yeah, he came to the
Yeah,
surface and probably just roared.
that's
Yeah.
him on the beach.
Wonder how he
So
finds his way out.
that's
Oh my goodness.
Godzilla's frozen in a prison, and that's why it's like the 62 Kong versus Godzilla. He breaks out of his ice prison, not breaking out of his hibernation. Because whatever beat him was because he was too weak to defend himself because of Mega Godzilla.
Oh yeah. Um, this is like first off, he looks very great as Pink. Wow, I never thought to say, but this is crazy. And the Pink atomic breath. I mean, all this stuff about Pink Godzilla, which he's the same Godzilla, but he's all pink, pink spinal cords, pink eyes, pink atomic breath. We're all have to see what happens and everything. I mean, goodness gracious, I want to
And
know. No, I want to know more about my boy, our boy. We want to
see,
know our boy.
that is references. And that's where you guys that are only in the Monsterverse don't understand why it's pink. There has been 3 movies that he's done pink atomic breaths. And that is Godzilla 2000. Then there's Godzilla Shin Godzilla, where his atomic breath is literally pink and his dorsal fins are pink, and he blasts atomic breath out of his tail, which is also pink.
This is like the
And
third time he's
during
been the
his
pink guy.
Heisei era, when he fights Mega Godzilla, before he gets the orange breath, it is a pink hue as he's gaining more radiation after he fights Biollante. So in the next movie, he was breathing out pink atomic breath because he could not control the radiation that was in his body and it was burning him from the inside out. So when
This
you
is so.
get to
Go on.
Destroya, it turned orange because he was burning up from the inside out, and that's where his ultra blast comes in. So it's an increase of radiation, and that's why it's pink. And that's the only way he was able to get out of the ice crystals because the ice was at like an absolute zero. So his body was too weak to get out. So he had to upgrade essentially or absorb hollow earth energy to the point where his body can't handle it. And he's basically at a nuclear meltdown.
Wow.
So
I
it
mean,
does make sense if you look at it as a nuclear, he's absorbing more than his body can handle.
I was gonna say this is something Adam Wingard would want to make this MonsterVerse absurdly fun and what the fans would like to see. I mean, let's give him props because he's making Showa Godzilla. Showa? Or is it Showa?
Thank you, Showa. If you
Showa.
watch those
Showa.
70s and you want to talk about
Yeah, I
goofy
think this is
crap,
where he's inspired to bring this up. And
like
if
the
you're a Godzilla fan, you would love to see it. If you're a MonsterVerse fan that just wants to see the story, get fucking used to it. I mean, he's bringing the fun out of Adam Wingard's bringing the fun out of this time around.
listen, my
Holy Lord.
Godzilla uses his tail to slide into Megalon from 2 miles away and uses his atomic breath to fly to the next city because he's got to fight another monster in the next town over and he's got to get there quick. So he flies. But
Yeah,
the fact that people are saying he doesn't run is mind boggling. Did you
dude.
not
Can
see
we
any of the
bring him?
monsters?
Dude, that was my
He's ran.
favorite part.
Well, he's run in every single movie.
Yes, he ran
He's
against Mecha Godzilla last movie. That's
he's
why
run
people don't get it.
and he ran to charge Ghidorah in Boston.
Yes,
He
even
ran
the
and
past
charged.
Godzilla movies. Yeah, go
He
ahead.
charged the Muto when he charged both of them at the same time in San Francisco. He's running every single movies. The fact that he had a bypass surgery and is now skinny is probably why you guys are more pissed off than anything else.
Exactly. People,
And
this is people needs to understand. He does that in the MonsterVerse, and he does that in the Showa Godzillas and some other Godzilla movies he's done. I mean, for that for sure, he did not run in -1. That's for sure. He just walked like a
correct.
skeleton, like a scarecrow or a skeleton or a
But the
robot.
more
Either way.
family friendly ones, he would run. And even 1974, when he faced the original Mecha Godzilla, there's a scene where his head's on fire and he's trying to run away, and you see him just trying to put his head. So he
uh,
does run. Uh, I think you guys are more concerned of the drastic changes, where it
yeah,
was been periodically from 14 to King of the Monsters. Okay, it was just the dorsal fins, and he was a little bit blue. And then from King of Monsters to Godzilla versus Kong, he got a little bit bigger and his breath got a little bit more obnoxiously powerful. I'm sorry, if you're gonna blow a hole in the middle of the world, the Earth's dead. You literally overpowered Godzilla to the point where he can literally kill the core, and you're worried about him running.
He can handle all the run, you guys. I
Uh,
mean,
he's also
we're
in
just.
the
Oh, go ahead.
Hollow Earth. He's in the Hollow Earth. We
Yes,
have no
exactly.
idea. We have no idea what their gravitational pull is. He could
Oh
be
my
light as
god.
a feather. Kong was flying in Godzilla
So
versus Kong.
I want to bring up this whole running with Godzilla. Besides him, Kong was running with him by side.
It's a
That's my
charge
favorite part. They were just charging. I don't know who they're charging against, but I hope they
with
didn't
a
spoil much
bumblebee
in the trailer.
glove. With a bumblebee glove.
It's just my favorite part. And speaking of that, I was just bringing up my favorite part of the trailer. What is your favorite part? Like just that exactly?
Uh, uh, I'm actually the opposite because I've grown up with him multicolored. Seeing him like that was badass. Him blowing out of the iceberg brought back memories of, like I said, 1962 King Kong versus Godzilla. He literally did that. He used his atomic breath to melt an iceberg that was covering him, and that childhood is like, whoa. It's just as iconic as the tree to the mouth to me is him blowing out of an iceberg.
Oh,
But
dude.
if that's the same type of reference, he didn't physically put himself in that iceberg. The movie before, he was buried in it.
So even after he left, I mean, at the end of Godzilla versus Kong, he went back to the ocean, but something just trapped him or something
Chased
like
it.
that.
Correct.
Okay,
And again,
I
we
thought
won't.
there was something else before that. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on.
So
I'm
he
sure
blows
something
back.
else happened.
So my theory is he beats up Kong. He beats Mega Godzilla. He goes back into the oceans, leaves Kong for his own accord. Kong, knowing that he has to go, goes down the Hollow Earth. So for the time he's gone into the ocean and the time that he's in the iceberg, something ambushed him during his recharge phase. If not the fact that he was awake for it, he could have been iced while he was still in hibernated sleep, like what Zarazala had to do to him, because he was basically comatose after Ghidorah, and he had to get a nuclear bomb
Great
to the
man.
point where he couldn't move. He could be in that vegetated state again. He literally went 48 hours versus Kong and did another 12-hour run with Kong's help to Mechagodzilla. That just depleted his entire nuclear fusion in his body. So he goes back home. He goes to his part of the Hollow Earth, but he might have not gone alone.
Oh man, we'll have
So
to
he
see and find out. Oh
so he
man.
goes to sleep, and while he's sleeping, he's encased in ice. So by the time he recharges, he's in an ice bed. And what would you do if you found yourself in an ice bed that you didn't put yourself in?
Oh man. Our boy is gonna get some revenge, so we will
Right.
see what happens.
Exactly. Because he didn't look happy when he
Oh
blasted
yeah,
out.
he
He
did
looked,
not look very
he,
happy. He looked pissed.
yeah,
And he teams
exactly.
up with Kong. This is where the fun stuff
And
begins.
if he would have done that himself, he wouldn't have that reaction. He would just come out unless something put him there that he didn't know. So by the time he wakes up, whatever put him there is already gone, be it in this movie or not. Because again, that second person might not even be in this movie.
You're right. All right. Anything we should discuss on the reaction? I think the trailer looks fantastic. I've been
Yes.
watching this ending over and over and over again, and probably the whole trailer, yeah.
I've
But
done
the
the whole
ending where
trailer
you,
to see
oh,
for Easter eggs that I might missed, secret clues. I've combed over it 100 times, and some of those newer monsters look pretty cool, like those flying,
oh
like
yeah,
dragon-like things,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. We've seen
what
those in
look
like
like
they look like from
hyenas,
Kong Skull Island to me. I think they exactly look like that.
and
Maybe.
then they looked like whatever was chasing Kong looked like hyenas.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. I thought this is something. Oh, we're getting
but some
there.
the fact that they were running in packs, that means uh, he's not having a fun time down there. And that's
Yep,
where my
he's
theory
embracing the
of
world.
the movie's gonna start him all alone. Uh, and these things are beating him up, chasing him. It's not the fun yay hee ha that he thought it was gonna be, and that's where you gotta find baby
Kong.
Kong, who will then lure him to the compound, is what I'm gonna call it from now on. Where you can meet the leader. Hey, come with me.
And then isn't that same place with humans or just like separate? Because I mean, we also got to see a very nice visual location of like where all humans in the Hollow Earth are. I mean, or is it just Skull Island? I don't even know what
No,
to.
they're down there as well, and they're
Okay,
relatives of the iwi that are on Skull Island.
the Iwis. All right. Good point.
So the
Makes
way
sense.
they might be the ancestors that traveled with Kong's family to Skull Island, and we're gonna find out it was because the red palm print was in Skull Island.
Exactly.
And
And same thing we saw in the trailer. That could be something. That's what I'm wondering. It looked like King Scar, but then I don't know whose
no,
blood
that's
could
what
that be.
literally what they're referencing. The woman's like, that's not Kong's hand. And then I rewatched Kong Skull Island. That same palm print is what Samuel L. Jackson was looking at. The red palm print on the side of the wall. So which means is Scar King chased him out, and Scar King was the one that beat up Kong's family to the point where the Skullcrawlers were able to pick them off one by one. And we're gonna
Oh
find out
man.
it was Scar King that killed Kong's parents.
This is a great kind of now this is where I think if
The
you're a
full
Kong fan,
circle.
if you're a Kong fan, you're gonna like the story of reaching to the point where Kong finds who out and remembered who killed his own family.
Because
And this is
that
where
one
the
scene,
moment
now
comes.
that I'm thinking about it, he had that kind of look of, and sure, he puffed out his chest, but he had a kind of a look of realization. Like, I've seen you before. And he's gonna look up, you're gonna see him roar, and you're gonna see the bald head, and because we're gonna find out Scar King's thousands of years old, and you're gonna see it through the Kong's eyes as little Kong, and it was the whip that beat his parents to a bloody pulp so the skull
Man.
crawlers can finish them off. Because in right now we all think the skull crawlers beat up Kong's parents.
Oh
Kong
yeah.
as a juvenile just beat up the entire hive. So that can't be true.
Oh yeah, totally. All right. That's so much King Scar and all that we've discussed. No offense, but wow. I mean, we'll get to see and find out if he's the true villain or not. You said there's two villains, but we'll see if the theory of yours cracks to be true. But other than
Right.
that, I'm assuming King Scar is like the whole empire or something that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we'll see. We'll see where this goes. I mean, this is probably gonna be an absurd fun movie. I don't know if it's gonna look good for like reviews. I bet it's not. That's what I'm thinking. But
Not if
either
they're
way, we'll
already
have to
burying
find
it
out.
now.
This is where I think the audience will matter to see if the fans are satisfied. But fans, I'm sure, will come out to see for Kong, which is what America loves to see. They know Kong is like from what analysts I know, Kong is like the star of America. Godzilla is just like an additional value add, like the last Godzilla versus Kong. So I mean, we'll get to see, but and then we'll see how this movie is, and we'll see what the word is. But man, I'm just eternally excited for this, man. Oh my god. That was just a fun section of this right there, and you point out every theories that I could not imagine, and I just usually like to save my saving grace thoughts to see if it's true or not. But yeah,
Right.
thank you so much, man.
Absolutely.
All right, well, is there anything else we should discuss before we wrap things up?
Well, I think we got through it all.
Oh yeah, me too. And this is the Godzilla -1 review and the Godzilla X Kong trailer reaction. Not myself, but Kyle Peffers, a newcomer of I Screen, You Screen for Movies. So if you're a Godzilla Kong fan, listen to this episode of this section. I hope you enjoyed it. But if you're just a casual listener who wants to listen to the movie review, I'll leave timestamp codes on the show notes so you all can keep track where to listen and where to stop if you don't really impersonate or excuse me embrace to care about the next MonsterVerse movie. But either way, have it your way, ladies and gentlemen. Either way, that's a wrap for this episode. Kyle, thank you so much once again. Where
Absolutely.
can they find you if they want to like follow your podcast and all? Where can they find you exactly?
I am on every platform: Google, Apple, Comcast, Pandora, iHeartRadio. All you got to do is type in the official MFL podcast hosted by Kyle Peffers, and I will be popping up. And the first 6 episodes of the original episodes of my podcast are up live on YouTube, and the same thing. It is under the official MFL podcast hosted by Kyle Peffers.
And what's going on your next episode? I know this has been off for a minute because we're also waiting for Mutant Football League 2. But then what's going on next exactly with you and Digital Dreams going on? What's the next step?
I'm just waiting for them. And if you want to be on my podcast, I'm looking for guests right now. It'd be the MFL Podcast 72 at gmail.com. You email me and I will set you up. And if you play Mutant Football League, I want to talk to you.
And that's only for those that want to play Mutant Football League. But if they're just people of the NFLs that play Madden but don't play Mutant Football League, will you accept them as guests?
I will try to convert you guys.
Yep.
We'll have a nice
He
little
can do it
debate.
for you all. He can do it for you all if you're a Madden player. But
I will
yeah,
debate for debating's sake as well.
all right. But thank you so much. Yep. This is Kyle Peppers. Follow him at the Mutant Football League, the official MFL podcast on whatever platforms you can find him on. Apple, Spotify, like he said, etc., etc. But you know what? I think Apple's the one that's really matters. But Spotify. He is like the king of all hills on Spotify. So I will leave his Spotify podcast in the show notes as well if you want to follow him. Other than that, he'll reach him out his email and see if you like to be his guest, and he'll put you on the show.
Absolutely.
And as for me, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy this podcast, follow and subscribe, whatever you're listening on. Apple Podcasts, you can leave your 5-star review on iScreen, Uscreen for movies if you're listening on it, or if you're listening to any other platforms, also on YouTube. I would gladly leave the Apple Podcast link if you want to leave your 5-star review. It really helps to help listeners find my show. Follow me at Twitter and TikTok. They'll both be in the show notes. And also, I'm on YouTube. You can see our faces and follow our YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, which will be in the show notes of the podcast as well. So you can follow and subscribe there if you are missing out what I truly look. If you're missing out our expressions and Kyle's expressions, you can find our faces over there as well as other guests I have every other episodes. So comment, like, subscribe if you're actually watching us on YouTube. But if you're a podcast listener, follow and subscribe to the podcast, to the YouTube channel. And Thanksgiving will be dropping my next review. This will be coming up sometime next week. So I'm gonna try to get the review done hopefully, and then other than that, I shall drop the review, and it will be the last movie review of iScreen New Screen for Movies of season 2, because we are approaching to the end of season 2. And yes, I will be continuing the show further on with season 3, but details will yet to come. If you want to know, just follow and subscribe to the podcast. Real simple. And that's going to be it for now. I don't think there isn't much left to say, except until next time, I'll be screaming you at iScreen, you scream for movies. Nailed it.
Have a great